And I appreciate, we kind of talked right before she got up there. I had a friend a long time ago who was in the music business and was a pretty well-known guitarist. Had to get out on stage one time without his guitar just to sing a solo, and he says, I suddenly realized I felt totally naked without that guitar between me and the audience. And so I appreciate Holly being vulnerable by playing with just the guitar instead of all the keyboards set up or hiding behind the piano over there. And it's a spiritual journey. It's a spiritual journey that we're all on. And I think it's very appropriate for our talk today and what we want to look at. Our topic is called Your Biggest Victim, You. And Ernest Holmes says, what untold grief of heart might be relieved by words of cheer and forgiveness. But that's not what I'm going to talk about. It is what I'm going to talk about, but it's not what I'm going to talk about. How many of you have felt kind of a little bit like victims this week? Or you've kind of caught that energy around? Okay? And I know victim is a dirty word in a religious science church, right? We're not supposed to be victims, and we're not victims. But once in a while we feel like it, right? You ever notice? Anybody besides me ever kind of feeling a little overwhelmed and kind of like, I was talking to a friend of mine who was here at the first service and a couple of days ago, and she said, I've had kind of a rough week, and I noticed I was feeling kind of like a little bit of a victim, so I decided to just give myself a couple-hour pity party. Just roll in it, revel in it. I knew it wasn't going to last, and I knew I'm not a real victim, but I gave myself permission to feel what I was feeling. And sometimes we just need to feel what we're feeling. It's like the Canyon walls we're talking about. Sometimes it feels like we're dying when if we can get the perspective, but we have to give ourselves the moment to feel that. Otherwise, we can't do the growth. So I want to start with a reading from Brené Brown that she just wrote a couple of days ago. I woke up this morning looking for someone to blame, someone to hate, someone who I could make the single target of my fear about the officers killed in Dallas and the killing of Alton Sterling and Philando Castile. It was such a desperate feeling to want to discharge the uncertainty and scarcity. Then it dawned on me that this is the exact drive that fueled what's happening right now. Instead of feeling hurt, we act out our hurt. Rather than acknowledging our pain, we inflict it on others. Neither hate nor blame will lead to the justice and peace that we all want. It will only move us further apart. But we can't forget that hate and blame are seductive. Anger is easier than grief. Blame is easier than real accountability. When we choose instant relief in the form of rage, we're in many ways choosing permanent grief for the world. So this week has been a difficult week for people who are open, have hearts, and care, right? I know I saw a couple of Facebook posts from some people of how hard it has been to witness what's going on this week, even previous week with bombings around in different cities in the world, and just what's going on in the world. It's challenging, yes? It's challenging. It's challenging to be a caring, conscious, feeling person and to keep the heart open while this is going on. And let's just acknowledge that. It's challenging. It's difficult. And yet it's important to actually feel what we're feeling, to really feel it. This is what she said. We want to have this deflective behaviors of let's do something else. Let's get involved in something else. Let's bury my head in the sand. Let's get the proper religious science approach. It's all good. Okay? I had a friend of mine who was a longtime minister who was going through a real rough divorce, and she said, at one point in time, she said, the next person who says to me it's all good is going to get punched in the face. So we acknowledge what's happening. We acknowledge what we're feeling. We have to know and acknowledge it before we can start to heal it, before we can start to do anything with it. And we have to not strike out at others. When I think about striking out at others, it reminds me of that old story of the boss who chews out one of his employees. The employee goes home and gets angry with his wife. The wife gets angry at the oldest son and takes it out on him. The oldest son goes and punches his little sister. The little sister kicks the cat. The boss comes over for dinner, and the cat pees on the boss's shoe. right? We set this stuff into motion, and who does it come back to always? Because there's only one of us, it always comes back. So do we take a moment to say, time out. I'm not going to continue this pattern. I'm not going to deflect from what I'm feeling. I'm actually going to sit here. I know it's not going to last forever, but I'm going to take the moment to feel what I'm really feeling, to be honest about it, to be direct about it. See, we like to say in religious science that the condition, whatever condition it is, actually exists. As Byron Katie says, what is. Very simple, very deep. What is. What we also say in religious science is, and it doesn't have to continue to exist. And so whether that's a diagnosis in our body, whether that's a financial condition, whether it's a relationship challenge, or whether it's looking out into the world and seeing what is, it doesn't have to continue to exist. But we do have to acknowledge where we're at, the factuality of where we're at. So this week we've had something surface that's been there for several hundred years in our country, and that's called racial tension. Anybody notice? It's been around for a long, long time. What we have is a challenge or a problem that is not just a black or white problem. We have a race problem that is a human race problem. We have a problem that the human race doesn't know how to love each other, because this problem, this challenge of believing and being afraid of people who are different than us, and then trying to control them or hurt them or do something to again, deflect our fear. Whose fear? Our fear. But I'm going to take it out on that person over there because they made me fearful, right? And as we know, if we're paying attention, nobody can make us anything, right? Okay. This has been going on for thousands of years. We believe that we can enslave people. We believe that we can own people. We believe that the way to control the planet or to deal with the planet is, instead of being in harmony with it, that if I can control the planet. We've misinterpreted the idea of taking dominion that was in the Bible. Instead of being in harmony with the planet, instead of being in harmony with each other, we've decided the fact that as a race, I'm not saying that anybody in here, but we have this deeply embedded within us that we can actually take it out and own other people and control other people, control the environment, control. Okay? And that sickness, that disease, that misunderstanding has been with us. And so it shows up this week. And in a way, I'm grateful that it's showing up this week because it had to come to the surface. One of my teachers said, whenever you call out love, whenever you go for love, everything unlike love shows up for the purpose of healing and release. And it's important to understand that last part, that the stuff shows up for the purpose of healing and release. See, as Reverend Mary can tell you, and any minister who writes talks, when you write a talk, you get the topic and you start writing a talk, and you're sitting there going, what am I going to talk about? And it shows up in your face during the week. If you have a spouse, then they help you remind you. If you have kids, they help remind you and have it show up in your face. And so as we are talking about the idea of creating a world that works for all, as this is in consciousness, the first thing that comes up is the stuff that's not working, because this is what needs to be healed. And it's not ours to run from it. It's not ours to say, oh, that's so sad and so bad. It's ours to say, and that's what needs to be healed. And where is the place that it needs to be healed? It's always within me. There's only one of us. There's only one life. So there isn't these people out here and these people over here. There's us right here. There's us right here. We are it. There's a wonderful a line in an Eagles song that says, there's no more new frontier. We've got to make it here. And so that's the truth of who we are. There's only us. We need to get over our fear of each other. We need to get over the fear that when I see somebody who's different from me, my first response is fear. I was talking with, yesterday I did a memorial service, and the daughter-in-law, the person who had passed away, was there, and we were talking, and I know she's a hairdresser, and she had a couple of red streaks in her hair. And it reminded me when I was living in Clarkston, Washington, just before I moved here, and I knew I was moving here, and I was having breakfast at a diner, and I was sitting at the counter, and I engaged in a conversation with the guy next to me. And I mentioned during the conversation, I'm moving to Reading. He says, Reading? They color their hair there. People who color their hair are fearful and different for that person. You're a scary community. I didn't bother to mention to him that I was in Seattle where people color, pierce, and tattoo everything. Okay, I just thought, I don't think he can handle that right now. We've had this ancient practice, this ancient belief that we can control other people and that other people should be like us. Have you ever met anybody just like you? Thank God, right? Think of 7.2 billion yous on the planet, or me's on the planet. Am I still on? I feel like I just did something. Think of that on the planet. We had trouble this morning at the first service with the microphone. I can go to the podium mic, Damien, if you need me to. Am I on? There we go. As long as we look at people who are different from us, whether they dye their hair, they're a different skin color, they're a different economic class, they're homeless, they're anything. And the first thing we think is fear. Our first response is fear. We set up a wall right away. And what does that say? That says, I am scared of the part of me that's different. The part of me that might be a little more creative and wild than I think I should be. The part of me that wants to be out there, but has decided to hold back so I can fit into my culture and my society. Because the person that I imprison ultimately is never that person out there. It's always me. And so it brings us back to the question that we've been playing with for the last few weeks. This wonderful question from Byron Katie, whose business am I in? Whose business am I in? See, she says there are three types of business: God's business, your business, and my business. God's business is that which we have no control over. Okay? Somebody said they woke up this morning, it felt cold to them. I woke up this morning, it felt wonderful to me. But I have 25 years in Seattle. And I said, yeah, it's going to be 85 today. And I said, that feels so nice that it's I said, but it's going back to 100 this week. And she looked at me and said, well, of course, it's Reading, it's July. What do you expect? I don't have any control over that. Whether I like it at 105 or not, I don't have any control over it, right? I have control over my response to it, but I don't have any control over what the weather's going to be. That's God's business. What's happening on, in that large scale is God's business. Your business is the stuff that you can control and direct, and my business is the stuff that I can control and direct. Whose business am I in? And what we find is we spend a whole lot of time in other people's business. And if I'm spending time in your business, what's happening in my business? It's vacated. There ain't nothing happening. I'm not paying attention to my life. My life. Our only business to be involved in is our own. So when I look at the affairs of the world, my question is, what is mine to do? Not what is theirs to do, what is mine to do? Now, it might involve others. And this is not a case of being insensitive to other people. This is not a case of putting our head in the sand and saying, la, 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 la. My life's just fine. I don't have to worry about it. Okay? Because that's not the truth. Those people who got shot, all of them, they're our brothers and sisters. They're us. All of them. The ones who did the shooting, by the way, are our brothers and sisters. All of them. Take a breath. All of us are in this together. And when we stop separating, when we stop looking and saying, we got to keep those people away, we got to keep those people down, we got to do this, when we finally start saying, it's us, it is us, we're going to have a shift in consciousness. But that takes transformative thinking, right? That takes thinking differently than most of us were ever raised. Because most of us are raised, and most of us are conditioned by the media to point the finger, find somebody to blame. Who's to blame for this? Right? Anybody else notice? Yeah. So we have to look at our own thoughts and our own feelings and our own beliefs and find out, where does this live within me? And then what do I need to do to start to dissolve that, to start to heal that, to start to be a more open and loving presence? Can I choose peace and love over fear and anger? Can I do that? Each of us has places where we get angry, right? Or where we get fearful. Can I start to choose to take that down a notch? It might be okay to feel it, but not to act upon it. And then I can take it to an even more subtle level, and a more subtle level. How can I be in this world as a conscious human being and be a place of love and be a place of forgiveness? Can I look at all the characters that are involved in this drama and see all of them as part of the one? Can I do that? Because if there's any place where I'm separating off, any place, and I know there's some hard places, there's some places, there's some people and organizations out there that we want to say, no, that's not me. I would never do a thing like that. And the truth is, you probably never would do a thing like that, and yet somewhere you do have that living within you. And I have that living within me. Each of us has that living within each other. And I know that because it's happening. And so we get to be the place that stands up and says, no more of that. Ernest Holmes has a wonderful quote where he says, 1 plus God is a majority. When I can stand in alignment with spiritual truth, when I can stand in alignment with the truth of what I know I am and this situation is, and I stand in that truth, I am in the majority. I'm in alignment with that power. Transformation calls for us to move out of our comfortable zones. Notice that? A lot of us want transformation without any discomfort, right? Right? Yeah. Yeah. If I really want to transform my body back to where it used to be, a nice, healthy, fit, trim body, I'm going to have to get out of my comfort zone. I love my ice cream. I love my chocolate cake. I don't like going to work out at the gym. That's not comfortable for me. But if I want to transform something, I have to shift something. If I want to transform my relationship, I have to shift something. And it's probably going to be uncomfortable, because the reason I got in trouble in my relationship or with my body is because I'm doing the comfortable same old, right? And in order to do something, to get a different result, I have to create something different and start something different within me. And I don't know about you, but that sometimes gets really uncomfortable. If we as a country, if we as a people, if we as a species are going to create a world that works for all, we're going to have to move through discomfort. As a friend of mine says, a few sacred cows are going to have to die. So love brings up anything unlike itself. It's dredging this stuff up out of the darkness into the light so we can look at it and start to work with it and start to see it, so we can bring light to it. See, a lot of us wanted to kind of pretend that, hey, racism, that's so 60s, early 60s. It's kind of gone. It's not really happening here at all. This week and this month and this past several years, really, we can't say that anymore, can we? I mean, it's right there in our face. And in a way, it's a good thing to have it in our face, because then we can start to heal it. A friend of mine who's a minister posted something on Facebook that I wanted to read. I didn't have time to write it out. This is from Reverend Christy Hardwick. She says, toxins will create disease, and they will seek release, like in the body, fevers, blisters, rashes, and eruptions. The body will show its reaction before it shows its healing ability. It will show its reaction before it shows its healing ability. The collective social body is erupting. The disease cannot be contained and must demonstrate, so we must admit we are sick and need to heal. We talk every once in a while about the universe gives us a whisper and then a nudge. And if we don't pay attention to those, we get a 2x4 up alongside the head. And if we don't pay attention to that, we get a Mack truck running through our lives, right? I know none of you have ever had that experience, but you know people, right? Okay? Some of you are in this church because you had either a 2x4 or a Mack truck run through your life, right? That's what it took to get me into this kind of a church. We have to recognize that it's simply a call for healing. It's a call to stand in the truth that we know. Florence Scovel Shinn, who wrote the book The Game of Life and How to Play It, an early New Thought writer, wrote, "I now exercise my fearless faith in 3 ways: by thinking, speaking, and acting. I am not moved by appearances, thus appearances must move." Isn't that a powerful statement? I stand on my spiritual truth. I am not moved by appearances. See, there's a whole lot of people who want to tell us doom and gloom and all this stuff, right? You've noticed? You've heard? Okay. If you've been paying attention to anything this week, you've noticed that. Anything in the last month, anything in the last probably 10 years. But she says, don't be moved by appearances, and thus appearances must move. When I stand in that spiritual truth, when I stand in alignment with Spirit, I and God, I'm the majority, and appearance, the appearance of disease, the appearance of disaster has to shift, has to move. So our work is to stay focused in the light. Our work is to stand focused in love. Our work is to not buy into the fear. But it is to pay attention. It is to pay attention, but stand in the power and the light of who we are and what we know. When we believe in fear, fear will always call for attention. Fear always calls for attention as long as we give it power. Which wolf do I want to feed? Byron Katie says, a teacher of fear can't bring peace on earth. We've been trying to do it that way for thousands of years. The person who turns inner violence around, the person who finds peace inside and lives it, is the one who teaches what true peace is. The one who walks through the canyon walls, through the canyon, is the one who can teach how to do that. We're waiting for just one teacher. You're the one. You're the one. I'm the one. We're it. Are we willing to be the place that finds truth and peace within and then spreads it? Are you willing to be a contagion in this world, a virus in this world? To take this knowledge, we know we stand in a truth, we stand in a world, we stand in a spiritual world. Yes, there's a human element, but there's something deeper, more going on than that. Yesterday at the memorial service, we talked about that idea of when a person passes away, there's a part of us that knows that that person, the life essence of that person continues on. They've just dropped their body. The Hindus say we just drop our bodies like a suit of clothes and then eventually put on a new suit of clothes. Okay? So there's something great, but there's something greater than that. At the same time we pay attention to the human condition, we know that we grieve the fact that we can't touch and play and interact with that person on the physical level anymore. We signed up for it because that's why we're on the planet. We live in both worlds. We have both visions going on simultaneously. And it's important not to let one blind the other one. It's important not to do spiritual bypass. This is all good. I know it's all in divine order. It's important to not do that. Yes, that is true on a spiritual level, but also we're being called at the same time to be the instruments of that divine order being made into form here on this planet. You and I are here to demonstrate love, to demonstrate peace, to manifest it. We're not here to be silent passengers. So this week I'm going to invite you to do 3 things. Number 1, be aware. Don't put your head in the sand. You know, one of my teachers says that she views the news, she said this for years, she views the news as her list of prayer requests. Isn't that an interesting way to view the news? Some of us on our spiritual journey, and I know, you know, if you're one of those people who's fairly new on your spiritual journey, it's a wonderful thing to unplug from the news for a while, right? It's a wonderful thing to unplug. When you're feeling stronger, when you know you're more grounded and you can start to face that again, you come back at it, but from a different consciousness, and you come back at it and say, this is my list of prayer requests. I'm not sitting here going, oh, my life is good, I don't care about everybody else, because everybody else is us. Everybody else is us. So that's the first thing this week. Don't shut down. Feel what you're feeling. Feel it. It won't kill you. I promise. We walk through the canyon. There's a process in some cities where
rivers have been kind of buried underneath, city sidewalks and city streets and stuff like that, where they start to bring them back to light because they realize that the fish and all that can't survive in a river unless there's daylight. So they have this process called daylighting streams in metropolitan areas. And so this is daylight your feelings. Don't cover them over. Don't surface them over. They need that light to be able to feed us, to support us. So that's the first one, be aware. Second one, look within. Be aware of what's out there, but then take it and look within. Where does that live within me? There's only one life. So whatever that is, where does it live within me? And can I be an antidote for that out there? Can I be an antidote? Can I be the place that brings love where there is hurt? Can I be that? Am I willing to be that? And can I turn into the inner strength that I have and say, yes, I see what's happening there, and I'm stronger than that. I've had several friends, and you probably have friends too, who get diagnoses and diseases that for some people would kill them, and they say, no, I'm stronger than that, I'm bigger than that, and they come out of it, they walk through it, and they live because they choose life. Will you choose life? Will you choose planetary life? Will you choose life of us as a human species, of us as human beings who love and care for each other? So that's the second one, is look within. The third one is spread love. Be a contagion for love in this planet. Be a contagion for love in this town. Can you look at somebody and see something different than what you may have in the past? We don't have a whole lot of racial diversity in this town, but we do have we have a lot of homeless people. You noticed? Can you look at those people and see them in a different way than you might have seen them before? Not being stupid or foolish, but can you also see them and hold them as loving beings, as expressions of the divine, exactly as they are? And do whatever it is that you can do to bless them and lift them up. I love the Shoes for Souls program we do here. We had a gentleman come in here Tuesday night for the AA meeting, and he walked into the office and he says, I see you have shoes. He says, I desperately need a pair of shoes. And he looked very down and out. And we said, find whatever pair you need in there and take it. Can we be a place that starts to lift people up? Can we be a place that starts to supply that? Can we be a contagion for that love? Can we take off the binders of preconceived ideas of what we have of the world and each other and start to just simply love and be that place that stands in love? To be kinder to ourselves also. Because if I'm discriminating against somebody out there, guess what? I'm also discriminating against some aspect of me. Can I start to hold myself in that same love? So that's the three practices this week. One is be aware, pay attention. Number two, look within, go within, stand within. And number three, from that within, take it out and spread love. Are you willing to pray with that this week? Yes. You're willing to be a force in the world for that love? Thank you. I'm going to close with a quote from Ernest Holmes. He says, stay with the one and never deviate from it. Never leave it for a moment. Nothing else can equal this attitude. To desert the truth in the hour of need is to prove that we do not know the truth. When things look the worst, that is the supreme moment to demonstrate to ourselves that there are no obstructions to the operation of truth. I'll read that again. When things look the worst, that is the supreme moment to demonstrate to ourselves that there are no obstructions to the operation of truth. When things look the worst is the best time to work, the most satisfying time. The person who can throw himself with a complete abandon into that limitless sea of receptivity, having cut loose from all apparent moorings, is the one who will always receive the greatest reward. I invite you this week to throw yourself into that sea of spirit, to stand in that presence, to look at the stuff, to look at the monsters, if you will. That's all they are. They're shadow monsters. They're like little kids, with monsters under the bed. And to say, you are not real. You are not the truth. Yes, you have a lot of appearance going on, and there's even a whole lot of people who believe in you. But I don't choose to believe in you. I choose to believe in something greater than that, and I choose to be the place where that manifests on this planet, here and now. I invite you to play with that this week. Let's move into prayer. I know that despite all the appearances, despite anything else, despite what we might even think or whether we remember or forget it, there is only one life, one infinite presence, one power. an infinite love and harmony that is greater than we can imagine. That is the true essence of spirit, and that is the true essence of all life. Whether we forget it or remember it, whether we act against it or not, it is still the truth. What is. And because it is the only thing going, because it is infinite, we have to be one of it. And everyone has to be, all of life has to be one of it. There is no place outside of an infinite spirit to be. No place to be outside of an infinite. And so we remember the truth that we are one of it. That we are divine centers of operation in the mind of the divine, in the mind of the one. That we are the place where the truth of spirit shows up in human form. And that we have said yes to be on this planet at this time. And so I speak my word. That we take that to heart, that we take our commitment more deeply than ever before to be a place of love, to be a place of light, to be a place of healing, to be a place of harmony, to be a place of truth, capital T, spiritual truth, to be a place where we embody the divine on this planet. That we do not let the appearances fool us or distract us. They're just a spiritual squirrel. We let that go, and we stay focused on what is the truth. We stay focused and centered on the truth that there is only love, there is only spirit, there is only this harmony, and we choose to manifest that. It's not just a theoretical idea, we bring it into human form so that this planet is transformed, and each of us is transformed. We say yes to spirit at a deeper level than ever before. We say, yes, I am willing to make that journey. Yes, I am willing to be the place that supports transformation, that supports a world that works for all on this planet. I say yes to spirit. And in gratitude for all the good that then manifests from that commitment, whatever level we make that commitment on, however willing we are, I'm grateful for that good. I'm grateful for the movement in consciousness. And so I release this word into a law that moves it into form and expression through each of us right here and right now. As we say yes, it says yes right back. As we are willing, it flows in. And so we say that yes. And we affirm together the truth of this by saying, and so it is. Bless you. Thank you.